I'd probably go so far as to say like 90% of distractions in your life probably stem from your phone. One thing you might have noticed is I haven't posted too long. It's been a while. It's been at least over 2 months. And partly is because I like to post when I have something of value to give. When I have some lived experience that I can relay to someone else in order to try and make their life better based on my experience. And during this time, I haven't been super focused. I've still been very focused on fitness. That's one thing I can never really see myself ever stopping doing is fitness. I'm always consistent with that. But with other things, I've slowed down. I haven't been meditating as much. I haven't been reading as much. I don't really journal much anymore. And recently I took a step back and I started thinking, I wonder why. I wonder why I've slowed down on these things. And then I take a look in my hand, what I'm holding, while I'm thinking these thoughts. It makes me realize your phone is probably the biggest distraction you'll ever have in your life. And it's a shame because it's also one of the best tools you'll ever get in your life as well. I mean, hell, I'm literally recording this video off of my phone right now. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have any means of communicating this. So this video isn't supposed to be saying, oh, you shouldn't use it, or you should get off your phone entirely. No, you need it, but it's the mindset as to how you use it that needs to change rather than, the device itself, if you know what I'm saying. There are things you can do to have a more positive relationship, with yourself. And cutting down your screen time is probably a big way to do things. I mean, come on, bro. You probably spend far too much time on apps you shouldn't be on. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, all this stuff. You're probably fairly aware that this stuff isn't really worth your time, other than sending it to the group chat. They probably don't even watch the video and just say that stuff anyway. Like, you do get a bit of gratification from it. And it's just a loop, that's why these apps are so addicting and so hard to put down, is because they are literally programmed to retain your attention. I don't know if you've ever seen the TikTok terms of service, but the amount of stuff that it keeps tracks on, like your keystrokes, like when you're typing on your phone keyboard, your date of birth, like all this stuff that you probably wouldn't think it has access to, and that's how it can keep you so retained, because it literally knows yourself better than you know yourself to a certain point, so the algorithm knows exactly what to feed you. And you shouldn't feel too guilty if you're really struggling with this stuff, because we're living in an era where addictions, like the variety of addictions you can get, are so widespread. A phone addiction wasn't a thing 1,000 years ago, right? Social media addiction wasn't a thing then, because they didn't have access to that. In this day and age, in the modern day, we're kind of burdened with those things because of two things as well. Because not only are these things completely new to us, but because we're still so primal and so driven still to this day by our ancestral desires. Our vices, the stuff we do on our phone, are driven by these instincts. That's another reason why it's so hard to put some things down, because it's playing on our natural instincts, like lust, like greed, like all this stuff. People who program these things, they know about that. They know psychology, they know how to keep you retained, they know what your basic desires are, so they play on that. I guarantee every single app takes advantage of that stuff wholeheartedly. I believe that, and it's not your fault that you're falling for it. I mean, hell, the entire world has at this point. You're more likely to find someone with a phone than without one. Like, people who don't have a phone are probably complete isolated, tribal people. Like, it's crazy to think that the rarity of not having something like this in this day and age is wild. So yeah, I think if a big step to eliminating distractions in your life would stem from reducing screen time, reducing stuff on this, and you will notice benefit quick. You will notice a lot of benefits quickly. whether it be through literally like straight up disciplining yourself, right? Okay, only 2 hours right now. If you feel like you have the discipline to do that, by all means do. But there's all sorts of apps you can get which can force you to not consume over a certain amount of time per day or whatever, and they can work. If that's what you need to do, then fine, do that. But I feel if you can train yourself to, okay, I'm only allowed to use this app, I'm only allowed to do this X amount of time for this today, I feel like that's going to be a bit more long term rather than just relying on an app to just kind of limit your screen time for you, because then that's all internal, isn't it? It's all in here. You're building your discipline, you're building losing distractions, all that stuff is positive. So if you are trying to like find an approach to limit screen time, then try and discipline yourself to do it, because like with all things that are difficult, they become easier to do once you see the rewards from doing it. Once you see that when you're cutting down on your phone, you're more happy, you're more present, you're enjoying time with other people more. Once you start seeing those benefits, then it's easier for you to only stay on it for 2 hours or not use that app anymore. Just give it time. It's the same thing with all things. I've had times in my life where I've had to go through months, almost a year of not having very little results on said endeavor, whatever it is I'm doing. For me, it was like the first 6 months of me starting this channel. I didn't really see much progress whatsoever, but I had to stick it through, and now I've made a decent amount of progress and I'm pretty happy with. And it's easier for me to make videos now because I've had that reward. So you can apply that same thinking to your screen time and stuff and limit your distractions. And when you do this stuff as well, you do lose a lot of focus. Your attention span definitely decreases. You definitely can't retain your information for very often. It's hard for people, like I've mentioned this before, it's hard for people to even sit through a movie now without scrolling on their phone, without doing that stuff. And again, what's that because of? It's unfortunate that a lot of our problems can stem from this, but it's a blessing at the same time, because if you could eliminate 90% of your problems just by taking one thing out of your life, that makes your life a lot easier, because you don't have to keep, okay, maybe if I reduce this, maybe if I reduce that. You don't need to keep trying to find solutions, because you can just say, okay, it's my phone. Everything stems from this, and you can just eliminate it, and it'll be much easier to cruise. It'll be much easier to pursue goals, to chase them, because you haven't had to go through the long-winded thing of, maybe I'll try dopamine detoxing, maybe I'll try all this stuff. You don't have to do that. Just limit screen time. All the benefits come through. The phone is probably the biggest distraction mankind has ever been faced with, and you're living through this time, I'm living through this time. Other people haven't had to live through this time, so advice from them, it's not going to stick in today's age, of course. So it's a completely unique problem. Nothing ever has come close to this. Think about how crazy it is. We are digitally connected to almost the entire world just through a text. I can call someone thousands of miles away from me in seconds. Think about how nuts is that? How crazy is that? Like, it is such a luxury, but the fact that we have this accessibility at our fingertips is also the biggest vice at the same time. We need to have strategies to manage it. And again, I'm not telling you to just completely eliminate your phone. I'm not one of those type of YouTubers who just, alpha male type stuff. You need certain downtime to remain sane sometimes, to remain productive. And I know I've probably said something contradictory to this in the past, but just know that this is my growth. I'm growing alongside trying to help you grow. So that's the biggest thing about my channel, is like I'm constantly growing, I'm constantly figuring things out. I'm only 19, I'm still figuring things out about the world. So if I ever say something contradictory, it's because I've changed my opinion, I've changed the way I think. So you do need some downtime. You know, you do need to have some small thing to take your mind off something which has been bothering you. And maybe that most of the time that comes from phone. You know, for me as anime, I love anime, and that helps me recalibrate, so to speak. So I don't, you know, because you can get burnt out quite easily. Have that 20 minutes, 30 minutes to watch a couple episodes. Helps you stay on track again. So don't completely eliminate your guilty pleasures. You know, that aren't self-harm. You know, that aren't self-harm and self-sabotage. You know, there are bad guilty pleasures. And I'm sure you guys know which ones to stay away from. But yeah, just some of my thoughts today. Just some quick thoughts. I just wanted to, you know, just point out some things which I've been struggling with. Be honest with you about my current situation, because that's what I want this channel to be built on, is honesty. And yeah, I'm gonna be posting more regularly. I'm gonna film something else right after this, so expect videos often, soon. And yeah, hopefully you can take some advice from this. I've been Cyrus. Subscribe for more, and don't be a vape puffing nerd.